Hello everyone, Lavon here. Today I wanted to share with you an idea I had for using the October Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit. It has all these cute little retro images of retro Christmas is the theme, but I thought this particular little card was dying to be made into an interactive card. So I used it to make a legal size envelope card, you know, so that there was more motion in the card, and I think it'll be one that I'll have fun sending out this Christmas. As you can see, this kit contains a lot of fun retro images from the 50s, 60s, so it's just a lot of fun to work with, and I'm old enough to remember some of these things that are included in the kit. I won't tell you my age, but I'm old enough to know some of them. I also used one of the signs from the add-on kit. This is the retro Christmas messages kit, and I thought that would be fun. But if you didn't buy the add-on, you could also use, you know, this image or this sentiment just as well as one of the ones from this kit, and make your own sign by the roadside if you'd like. So what we're going to need, since we're going to make a legal size card that's going to fit into a size 10 legal envelope, I think it's called a legal or business, maybe business envelope, but this is a size 10 envelope. So for our card base, we're going to want to cut a piece of cardstock, and this, you want to cut it to 9 inches across by 8 inches, so it's going to be 9 by 8. And then that we're going to score. Going to want to score that at the 4-inch mark. So the card is going to get scored here at 4 inches. My scoring board is not quite long enough, so I'm going to turn it around and score it from this side too. So there we go. And fold it in the center, and then you have your card that will fit into a business envelope or a size 10 envelope very nicely like that. Okay, and then I made my card base out of red cardstock. This is Gina K. I think this is the cherry red cardstock from Gina K. So now what we want to do is create our background panel, and this panel is going to be measuring 8 3/4 by 3 3/4 because I wanted to leave a margin around the edge, sort of a border. So it's good. That's the size. Then what I did is I took some Post-it labeling tape, and you could use masking paper, you could use just plain paper, whatever, you know, as long as we mask off all the way across the card and about 1 inch from the bottom, like so. This is going to be our roadway and where the mechanism of the card is located. So I will take some distress. This is the black soot, and I'm using just a regular blending tool, and I'm going to put some color right here on the bottom to make our roadway. I learned the hard way that you have to be careful with this black soot ink, not move your fingers around too much onto the white surface, and it dries a little bit slower than I anticipated. And on my first attempt at this, I got a lot of black fingerprints into the white portion or the sky of my card. So just fair warning, be a little bit careful with this. But we want a nice black surface down here on the bottom to create a roadway. And then I also am taking this same black soot, and I'm going to put it right onto this Post-it labeling paper, because I'm going to use this later on, and I'll show you how I'm going to use it. But I am going to take this this black all the way up into that piece of Post-it tape. Then I'm going to remove the Post-it tape and put it to the side so that we can use it later on for this card. Okay, so after giving that some heat to heat set that black, now it's not going to rub onto the white of my card or into the sky. Then what I did is I took some masking paper and I'm just going to eyeball this here and make a gentle, like, sloping snow line that's going to go all the way across here with some masking paper. Then we're going to mask off some snow area of the card, just like so. It doesn't have to be even or anything like that, just so that we get a mask there. I will use some Distress Oxide and the Tumbled glass, which is one of my favorites. I'm always reaching for this, so I have to always have a refill on hand for my Tumbled glass. This is the Distress Oxide. And I'm not going to add, you know, I'm just making a sky. I'm not doing any masking of the trees or anything like that. Just making a skyline up here. I'm also going to add just a little bit of the Stormy sky. Around the edges. I always like to give a little bit of extra color. If the blend is not smooth, not to worry so much, because there's going to be a lot of other detail here. There's going to be trees and your sign and the car. So this is just going to present a backdrop to the card. Okay, and then what I did after I got my sky in there is I just took my masking tape, our masking paper here, removed it from my snowscape, my snowy hillside, and I just placed it like in a different location just to give some more interest to the snow. So we're going to put it and just press that down again, and then just using the ink that's still remaining on my brush, I'm going to just go in here and add some shadowing so that it looks like there's two layers of hills in that background. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just a little bit of extra detail. That's the beginning of our background. Then I'm just going to place my trees. And for placing the trees, like I said, I'm not going to do any masking off of the hills or the trees or anything like that. I'm going to try to make this very simple. Just going to hold this in place with a magnet. And then we're going to put our trees in. I'm going to mask off that area again a little bit. I'm using this mask over and over, as you can see. So if we even mask it in a different spot, it's going to look like the trees coming up from a different area. So I'm using the Gina Amalgam ink in the Obsidian color. And I'm just going to stamp a tree here. Then I'm going to move my tree, and I'm going to put it, we'll make a shorter tree here. And then I'm going to just peel back my masking paper, and we'll add one more tree to the right here, And this one we're not going to mask. We're just going to put them right in there without the masking to make a big, taller tree that's more in the foreground. There. Now, because I use that light tumbled glass oxide ink in the back, I can actually use my Copics now just to color in the tree right over the blue, and you're going to barely notice a change in color between the tumbled glass and the white. I didn't notice it at all, actually. Without watching me do all this coloring, because it's all going to be the same. So this tree, and the tree is cut off on the bottom. No problem with that. I'll show you what I did. So all I did to fix that little bit of an issue is I took a micron marker. This is a number 3 micron, and I just drew in the base of the tree with the little trunk. No problem there, and it looks like a finished tree. I'll add my trunk color here. And for the little ornaments on the tree, I know some people have expressed on Instagram that it's hard to get into these little spaces. What I found works really great for this is a gel pen. I have a few gel pens left from the days when I used to have a lot. And this particular one is a red star, a number 719. And I'm just going to go in here and color in my ornaments. And two, this is opaque, so it covers right over that blue in the background. And it also gives a little bit of sparkle. The other gel pen that I'm going to use today is the number 700. This is clear, the clear sparkle one. And I'm just using it to trace over these tinsel lines. It's going to be hard for you to see this, you know, with the lighting here. But it does give a little bit of sparkle too, where those tinsel lines in the tree are. And this going to work great when we get to coloring the car. So let me just, that's how I did the tree. And let's just fast forward to my trees all done and the background all ready to go. What we want to do is create the sliding mechanism for the car. I'm using the Lawn Fawn slide on over dies. And I'm just going to put the die up in my pavement area where I would like it, and take this to my die cutting machine. Okay, so I've cut the die once, and I have a slot there, but I want to make that slot even a little bit longer. So what I do then is just line back up with where the die cut before, and press down my low-tack tape again and take it back to the die cutting machine a second time. Now I have, after taking it to the die cutting machine a second time, I have a slot that runs a greater length on my card so that my card can move further on my card, which was my intention. What I'd like to do next is just share with you a few pointers I have for coloring in the car. First of all, when I'm using my Copic markers on a small area like this, I take off both ends of my Copic marker. This is a R27 marker, and I've taken off the cap off of both ends. And I notice that when I'm working on a small line area like this one with the trunk and the hood of the car, I find, and I don't know if this will be true for everyone, but I find it's easier to work with the chisel tip. I most always work with the brush end of my Copics, but for getting into these small spots, if I turn that chisel nip right on the edge, I can get right into those lines because it doesn't have any give. And because it doesn't have any give, then it's easier to get into those spaces. And I'm putting in my dark color first here. Again, that's because I want to get right into those lines. Right up against the lines with the chisel marker. And it's right around even this little chrome stripe on the car. It's easy to get right in there with the chisel tip if you just use that edge of the chisel tip. Now I'm going to use the lighter color and do the same thing. Take off both ends of my Copic marker so that there's no dripping or bleeding of the red. And this is an R14, and I'm just going to go in there with kind of a circular scrubbing motion to blend those two colors together. I'm going to probably go back with the dark just a little bit again. Now I'm using the brush marker because I don't have to be so precise because I'm not getting right on those edges. I'm going right into the highlight areas of my car. For the most part, if I'm not rushing, I can get right in there without having any bleedage. Here, there's a little bleeding on one spot that I'm going to go in with the zero blending tool and get that out. For the white on my car, I just used a little bit of the C0, just a very light gray. So this is the C0. And after I've gotten into some of those areas, I'm just going to go back in here with the brush tip and even it out. It doesn't have to be great in that area. I'm going to also go right over the center of my wheels here with this. And for my tires, I'm using a C9. And again, I'm going to use that chisel nib turned on the edge because the tire is a very small area to get to too. And I want my tires to be white walls because that's a retro thing too. But I find if I'm using that chisel tip and a little patient, I can get right into those very small spaces. And then the Jelly Roll pen, the number 700, is perfect for doing our chrome. So and even if I've had a little bit of out of the lines in this red, it's opaque enough that it's going to cover up any of those little mistakes. So I'm just adding that right into the spots where I want to have like a chrome effect. And especially after I clear emboss it, it turns out to look just great. Just the right color and the right amount of sparkle. And here I don't even have to be very careful because it's opaque but still translucent enough that the lines show right through. So I'm adding a lot of bling for a little bit of effort to my car. And I'm going to go right here in the center again and do my little hubcaps with some of the sparkle. All we need now is the glass of the windows, which is a pretty big area, so we don't have to worry too much about that. This is the B0000. And again, I'm taking off the both ends of this one just to make sure I'm not going to get any bloopers or any bleeding. All I need now to do is add a little bit of orange for my tail light on my car and a little bit of the FYG1, which is like a neon yellow for the headlight. Car's all ready to go. Then what I'm going to do is just take an embossing ink, a clear embossing ink, and I'm going to go over the whole car like this, taking the pad right to the car. I will add some clear embossing powder right on top of my image here. This is some Wow clear embossing powder, but any clear embossing powder will work. So after taking it to putting on 2 layers of embossing powder, adding the little gifts to the car, and cutting it out, you're going to end up with it looking like this. I hope you can see all the sparkle and richness you get once you put on that clear embossing powder. So off camera, I decided to add a few more details to our background. What I did is I used the retro snowflake image from the stamp set and used Versamark ink to just stamp a random design across the top and heat emboss them with a white embossing powder. And for my sign, I stamped that in Simon Says Stamp lipstick red ink. And while the ink was still wet, I also applied some clear embossing powder and heat embossed that. The signpost, I just drew this in with a Copic marker, but you could also have used a bit of this, leftover cardboard from the trail here to make your signpost. What I want to do first is just place the car where I want it to be on the bottom of the card in that track area. Then I'm going to use some low-tack tape and just put a couple pieces of that tape there just to hold it in the spot where we want it nice and straight. Then I'm going to turn the card over and we're going to work on making the mechanism in the back. We're going to work on the sliding mechanism first. I had these foam dots in my stash, so I'm going to use these. I think these came from Michael's, but they fit perfectly in that slot without causing any problems with the movement of my car. So I'm going to just add 2 of those, 1 on each side of the car, because we want the car to not wobble. We want it to go straight across. I'm going to then just take off that protective adhesive on the back and add 2 pennies, 1 to each side of the car. And we're going to try to center that penny in place. Give it a good press. On both. Now it's time to test the mechanism and see if it's working properly before we proceed. So I'm going to remove my purple tape and we're just going to check to make sure that the car will move back and forth, and it will. One hint I have for you is that when you're making this back panel, I would suggest using a heavier cardstock because you think you want something that's not going to warp or anything like that. You want that cardstock to stay straight. So now, as you can see, I've added quite a generous amount of foam tape to the back of the card, and our mechanism is still working. So now it is the moment of truth. We want to attach our panel to our card backing. For remember that piece of masking tape that we saved from before? I have actually cut it down, and I'm going to place it on the bottom area of my card where the track is, and that's going to mask off the red in my card and match the inking that we did pretty well. Now all we have to do is place the card front onto our base, and I'm just eyeballing it here carefully to get it on there correct, and press it down. Tape covers up the area of the card where the card is sliding, where the card slides back and forth. Okay, now as a couple of finishing touches to the card, what I did is I added some silver gems from Studio Katia, and I just glued those in place on my snowflake and around my sign. You wouldn't have to do this. You could also use something simpler, sticklets or Nuvo drops, to add a little bit of bling to your card. So I'd just like to thank everyone for sticking around with me today as I gave you this tutorial for this interactive card. I know it's a rather long one, so I appreciate your patience. If you like the video, if it was helpful to you at all, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, share. I'll be back with you soon with a new video. Thank you.